Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the OutCast. I'm your host, Aaron,
And I'm Dale.
and it has been 3 long weeks since we've last joined you guys. Maybe even longer. I'm not necessarily sure. But wow, has it been a wild 3 weeks, huh, Dale?
No, dude, it's been crazy.
Absolutely crazy. Work has been going nuts, and on top of that, we had multiple hurricanes hit the U.S. Um, As we're on that topic, please pray for the families. I do have friends in North Carolina who thankfully made it through, but they did have family members who were struggling and lost their homes. So please keep them in prayer as long as the people in Florida. All of our friends and family that were in Florida, thankfully, were protected and had minimal damages to loss of power as the most that happened to them. We are glad for that. But wow, there has been a lot that has happened. Today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter. There has been multiple things that have happened, but nothing that we think we need to do an extended episode on. We're just going to kind of touch base. A lot of this is expected in the current political season of what we're looking at. Anything from Kamala Harris doing a 60-minute interview. She also did an interview with, what's that guy's name on
I believe it's Brett Bear.
Brett Bear? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that sounds about right. Which was a complete flop and just totally wild, to the point that her staff was telling him it's time to end it because she was going off script and getting aggravated at him. And so that was quite entertaining. To Donald Trump actually keeping his word and going to work at McDonald's, which Donald Trump has now officially worked at McDonald's longer than Kamala Harris.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely hilarious. Oh, dude, that's so funny.
Dude, his tie matched the outfit too. Oh my word, it was perfect.
It was great. What was the thing I saw where like he handed a guy like some extra nuggets and stuff, and he's like, "Ah, it's okay, it'll be fine." And I started laughing. Like, yes. So, a lot of things have happened. We're gonna go over them briefly today, just kind of catch up, and then hopefully, by next week or the week after, we'll be back up to where we expect to be and want to be. We are doing a lot of talk of the channel and kind of what we're wanting from the channel. So things may start to shift, they may stay the same. That all just depends on where we feel like we want to take it and go. But, we're still in the wow, infancy
Infancy.
stage. Well, there we go. Words. We're still in the infancy stage of this channel, and we just want to be able to give it the best effort we can. And for that, we may have to make some changes to the way we work, or if the way it works is the way that's going to stay, then that's how it is. But just acknowledging that part for us as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to start talking about that 60-minute interview that we had a couple weeks, Dale,
Oh my
because I'm sure you
word.
noticed it as well. After I came back after 2 days to rewatch it, it was a different video than the first one that I had watched.
Yep.
They
They
edited.
edited, changed it, and oh my word. It's like, oh yes, we're gonna have a sit-down interview where he just talked for 60 minutes straight and blah blah blah. Well, it ended up being 20 something minutes. And they're like, well, after they changed it, they came back and were like, oh, well, we edited it only to make it more relevant and to make sure that we got more questions in. And I'm like,
No.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
Which we know isn't true because even the commercial that they had out for it, like the ad, the teaser trailer for it, shows her giving different answers to the questions than what's in the actual video.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Absolutely, dude.
So you know that they took multiple takes of questions just off of that one bit right there. So it's the same thing as, I guess
I'm
the Brett Bear one as we're going into. You could really tell as soon as she starts to get on her own and answer questions, they try to push her off as fast as possible and get her gone. I have a feeling that once 60 Minute released it and people saw how incompetent she was in her answers,
Oh yeah,
they
they changed it.
really pressured them, which made me sad because the guy was giving really good questions,
He was
right? He
actually
would
giving
ask
decent
her
questions,
and he
yeah.
would be like, "What does that mean?" Okay, but what is
Mm-hmm.
your plan? But
Oh
what
yeah.
is your plan? And she's like, "Well, the middle class of America." And he's like, "But that's not a plan." And it was really, really good. And then they just changed some stuff and moved it out to make her look better, which really makes me sad because I was expecting a nonpartisan questioning out of this.
Brother, honestly, when I look back at the 60-minute interview, I didn't really see them as hard questions. They weren't really hard questions if you look at it versus the questions they asked Trump. I mean, they're easy
Well, hard
questions.
for Kamala,
Right, right. They're
right?
normal
Like it's like
questions.
asking, would I ask my 5-year-old child to explain calculus to me or my senior to explain calculus? I'm going to ask the senior, not the 5-year-old child. And that's the same thing how they treat Kamala and Trump, right? Trump is like this very, very intelligent businessman. He has all of his ideas in order. They ask him hard stuff because they want to make him look bad. But then they softball pitch to Kamala, who's always drunk most of the time when she's doing stuff. Now, it's funny that you do mention that the way that they interview Trump. I'm sure you've seen it. Trump has been going on interviews after interview after interview, and especially as of recently, he's been doing interviews with very big financial guys, right?
Oh yeah, he did
And
one with Dave
explaining
Ramsey, which was nuts.
exactly. And Trump is, I don't know, for some reason people think Trump wants to bomb this economy. Trump is a exceedingly successful businessman. If anybody knows how the market works and knows how to spend money, it's Donald Trump.
Oh
So
yeah.
for you to think, "Oh, he's going to crash our economy," you're absolutely stupid and you're not actually thinking about, what it is that you're trying or what it is that you're saying, right? Because he was up
Mhm.
there talking and he was saying things that even Dave Ramsey was like, "Whoa, yeah. No, yeah, this is actually right." Like they're going back and forth. They're both successful.
Oh yeah.
Ramsey's a very successful financial advisor and Donald Trump is a billionaire.
One of the coolest things I think Donald Trump said while he was on that Ramsey interview was Dave Ramsey's like, okay, so how did you raise leaders? How did you, two questions, right? How did you raise your kids to be leaders, and how did you raise, these prominent leaders inside your company? And he's like, I promoted from within because it was like, look, you had a waitress. She was the best waitress. She should be running. You move her up to being manager of the store, and then from manager of the store, if she does really good as a manager of the store, you move her up to district manager, and so on and so forth. And then eventually, she becomes so well understanding in her field that she becomes the best. And he's like, for his kids, he's like, I told my kids two things: no drinking, no smoking, no drugs, or three things: no drinking, smoking, or drugs. That's it. And his kids turned out well because they didn't drink, smoke, or do drugs. And it's like,
Imagine. They
imagine,
listened to
don't.
good advice and they turned out good.
It's insane. It's not insane. It's normal. And the
Yeah.
things he said are extremely insightful because of the political and the social, cultural fabric that would state we find ourselves living in, where people
Oh
are
yeah,
like,
things that if he had said them even 30 years ago, people wouldn't have bat an eye. It's like, "Oh yeah, that's common sense. That makes sense." But we're
oh
in an
yeah,
area where people are so self-absorbed and they're so concerned with little things that they freak out over little stuff like this. Like what we talked about this, I believe, in the last episode we had, the difference between male voters and female voters, right? And how the biggest problem for Democrats and women voters this year is abortion. Not even like how I'm gonna live, how my actions will affect me. It's can I kill my baby is the biggest action. And I think that one poll sums up where we're at with our own people and how the common sense is no longer a commonplace and it's no longer prioritized. And you see that with these people who are very very quickly, getting rid of all these old standards that really help set up and establish the US for their own new standards, right? It's very easy to say, "Oh, these rules are outdated," when you're literally standing on the land that was created by the old rules. And arguments like that come back against the Bible. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh, the Bible's an outdated book. It's ancient." Okay, what part of it is outdated? I want you to specifically tell me that. I had a coworker try to tell me that, and I was like, "Okay, well, let me ask you this: Is killing people outdated? Thou shalt not kill? No. Thou shalt not steal? No. Thou shalt not commit adultery? Well, a lot of people would like to argue that one, unfortunately. But thou shalt not bear false witness. You know, oh yeah, okay, it's an outdated book, but then all these rules that I'm listing out to you, these people are agreeing with, and they're stating that, oh yeah, no, this is actually still applicable, but it's outdated. It's really easy, as I've said, to call something outdated when your very society is ordered on the rules that came from it. They think it's time for something new. Okay, well, every time something new has been tried, it has not worked out in the slightest. So I think we're coming up to a point where we see this even in our voters, right? They're so concerned with, oh, we need to push what's new. We need to push what's new. They're not even stopping to think, okay, what is the effect of getting rid of what's old, right?
Exactly. It's
If I build a house on an old foundation or an old, let's say I've got a lake house, right? It's built up on wood and it's got a wooden porch. I build a new house on top of that porch, but then I tear down the porch because the porch was old. What happens to the house, Dale?
it falls all the way down.
That's right. It collapses because I didn't stop to think what the effect of removing the old was because I was so entranced with the new. And that is a huge problem that we see today with our generation.
Those who refuse to remember history are doomed to repeat it.
That is 100% true. And we can see it everywhere. And we're seeing it now with these communist guys. 130 million people killed the communism. And yet people are now saying, oh, we need communism. It wasn't done right. You're an idiot. Oh, people say, well, communism wasn't tried correctly. And it's like, no, it's a flawed system. A flawed system is flawed, whether it be 30 years in the past or 50 years from now, it still is going to be flawed. Time doesn't change something that works. Now, things run down and things adjust, yes, but when we come down to basic principles don't just change because time, right? Gravity doesn't change because time passes. The law of gravity does not change. The law of thermodynamics. All of those laws don't change just because time passes. Even time itself is a law.
Exactly. And then, moving on from that point, they're trying to, move on from the point of, they repeat history. They do it all the time. Like, literally, they repeat the same problems that other people have done in the past. Same errors. Anyway, but let's
Oh,
see what else.
absolutely. Even in their own behavior, Dale. You've seen the newest thing where Kamala came out earlier today and was comparing Trump, saying that he was saying something over Hitler's generals or something,
Oh yeah,
and
talking
they're
about
trying
how
to
he
make that.
praised Hitler. He wants generals like Hitler that are obedient and all this junk, and it's like,
Yeah. And people are, look, Hitler was terrible. I hate Hitler. If I was a soldier on the field and I saw Hitler out there, I'd put a bullet in his skull. I don't want any questions about that. But what I'm about to say is true. Hitler got as far as he did because he did have good generals, people who listened to him, and people
it's
who
true.
got stuff done right. And that's just a
Under the fear
military
of
principle.
that is
If
true.
people are upset, I mean, you can be upset at the fact that he used Hitler, but the fact of the matter is that that's a military principle. You have good generals, you get stuff done. Trump
It's
wouldn't
true.
even, or not Trump, sorry, Hitler wouldn't have even made it past his first invasion if he didn't have the generals that he had.
That is true.
And Trump may be alluding to the fact that good generals are important and people are focusing only on the Hitler part. It doesn't
Right.
change the fact that these generals were good. One of the generals took the idea of the British guy and did the Blitzkrieg. And they called a couple other presidents when they were running basically Hitler. Oh yeah, they called Bush, Cheney, McCain, Romney. They said they were all like Hitler, but then they are like, "Oh no, we really mean Trump is like Hitler now." On top of that, they constantly compare something as small as January 6th to 9/11. That is a over exaggeration by a mile and a half.
Yeah, I found
Uh,
the name of the man. It was Percy Hobo Hobart. Um,
yes, Mr. Hobart,
yes.
the inventor of the Blitzkrieg, perfected by the Germans.
He was also the proponent for Hobart's funnies, which were these tank machines, were machines that they put on tanks and specialty tanks that they made, like mine clearing tanks, mortar tanks, and such like that. Like these very specialized tanks that were meant to do a specific job that infantry would take great losses in doing.
Oh, there's your little history tidbit for today. Percy Hobart, the inventor of the Blitzkrieg. He
He was
wasn't a
British.
German. The Germans took it from him. But, anyways, moving on. So they like to just throw these names out, though, and blame people when you really look at the character witnesses around Trump and they say different, right?
So there was a private in the military who was at Fort Bragg, and she was killed by another private and her boyfriend. She was beaten to death, and then her body was burned. And they did an entire investigation. They found out They found out who is the culprit. They found out why the administration had allowed the abuse to happen and all this other stuff. And Trump personally met with the family. He personally invited them to the White House and talked to them personally, and he said that he was going to take care of them. And this entire thing was publicized. It was a media storm because this whole incident happened, and they recorded him having his conversation with his family. And in that conversation, he said, it's like, whatever you need, we're going to get it. We're going to get it to you. If you need help with money, then I'm going to help you with it. It's like, we're going to make sure that everything's taken care of. You're not going to have to worry about a thing. And that's really speaks to the fact of how much he cares for him. And the family came out and said as much. The family came out and said, hey, he was completely genuine with us. He was completely helpful and sincere and honest. And he helped empathize with us. Anyway, so that happened. She was buried in Houston. It was a huge ordeal. But so this report came out today from the same guy who made the report in 2020 about Trump calling Normandy soldiers that died at Normandy suckers and losers, which it came out immediately after as false. Everyone said it was false. There was no corroborating story that said it was true. Like, it was false. It was a whole bunch of crap. Same dude came out with this one, has no source. All of his sources are, quote unquote, sources are anonymous, which makes no sense because if you say that you're coming out against Trump on this thing and you have eyewitness account of it, you're like, and you reveal your name, your bills are going to get paid for the rest of your life by George Soros's and Bill Gates and all these other people that are going to give you speaking
hate Trump,
things.
yeah.
They're going to give you speaking engagements. They're going to give you, conferences and all this stuff. So to have someone be anonymous makes no sense. First, on its face. Second of all, he came out and said that these two anonymous sources that were at a cabinet meeting a couple months or weeks after the funeral, said that when Trump heard how much that the family had billed the army for the funeral, it was like $60,000. Said that he cursed at them and said that's $60,000 is a ripoff. They're ripping me off. That's not how much it takes to bury a expletive Mexican. They're trying to short me. They're trying to scam me. It's like, okay, full stop. What's this? Non-moral, non-partisan, let's ask this straight up question. How much money is Donald Trump worth? How much money does he have in his bank account to use on the daily? Yes, millions of dollars. He don't care about $60,000 billed to the government for a wrongful death. He's proved that before. Like, he doesn't care. Like, that's not enough money to even be a blip on his screen. You really think he cares? The people who were shot at his rally after he was shot in the head, the person who died, and the two men who were shot who survived, he immediately, while having been shot, okay, in the following days, Trump literally had campaigns, ads, and entire movements to have people donate money to them, have people give money to them,
the biggest point, I guess, to this is the fact that
there's no witnesses.
It's against his character.
Yeah,
from what we know from him, this comment sounds like it wasn't for his character, the way his character or who he is, right?
Right.
This doesn't sound like who he is. And until we actually have somebody credible source who can say, hey, he actually did say this, then what we have to do is we have to take the evidence, who Trump is, how has he treated people, what is it that the family of this person said, that how did they feel around him? And all evidence comes to that he probably didn't actually say this.
Actually, if you want evidence for the opposite, the private's sister made a post today saying that she cannot believe what they're trying to say about Donald Trump because Donald Trump was nothing but sincere to them. They paid for the entire funeral. They never asked any questions about it. They never interrogated them. Why does it cost this much? Blah 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 blah. And that he was nothing but helpful and sincere and honest with them from the get-go, saying that it like. And then she was like, "I voted for Donald Trump today." And do you think I would have done that to someone who disrespected my sister? You're insane. And it literally the family says that it didn't happen. You cannot believe the media garbage. And yet CBS, CNN, ABC, NBC all put this on as news, as their main story yesterday. I think the story came out yesterday, by the way, not today. My apologies. And they put this as their main story. Oh my goodness, Trump said this about this thing. These allegations. It's like, well, you don't even explain that there's no source. It's just defamation at this point. Like it's just
Oh,
plain and
dude, if we
simple
were to go
defamation.
after them for defamation, it's crazy. Like, they get away with just saying anything about him, but if somebody says something against them, then they freak out.
So what else
Well,
happened? Do you want to talk about Donald Trump inside of McDonald's?
oh, that's right. Donald Trump was in McDonald's. Guys, it is official. Donald Trump has worked at McDonald's longer than Kamala Harris. And that is confirmed by McDonald's. Is it not?
Yeah, it is. They came out and said that they have no record of her ever working for any of their chains. She hasn't named where she worked, like what franchise it was. If you look at all the stories on it, the only evidence that they have for it is that she said she did. Oh, and her friend said she did. But the company itself said that she didn't. So I think that she didn't. So
I would say that she probably didn't if they say that they didn't. I don't trust her friends because I don't trust her.
I
And
think
misery loves company.
I think that the coolest part about Donald Trump doing the whole working at McDonald's, the entire time he's showing complete respect to the dude who's telling him what to do, to the manager who's talking to him, telling him how to do fries. And when he makes a mistake, he's not like, oh, get away from me. He's like, oh, absolutely, yeah. He has this perfect mentality of respect, and it really showed. Like, if you want to talk about what that did, that showed that Donald Trump likes the people that work at McDonald's, and he likes the people that eat at McDonald's. That's what that showed. And
well, and we've known that Donald Trump loves McDonald's. You remember, what was it? When
when
he was president,
he invited
he
the
literally
football team.
served. Yeah, the football team, and he served McDonald's. Like, Donald Trump actually likes McDonald's, and it's hilarious to think that a billionaire eats there. But I mean, if you're looking for back then, cheap food, McDonald's was the place to go. So, it makes sense that Trump would actually somewhat like him. What really got me was not so much the fact that he was working there, but you really got to see, because he was working drive-through for a while.
Oh, yeah.
You got to see people and the people's reactions, right? And one that really got me was there was this lady who pulled up in her SUV, and she told him, she said, please don't let the US become like Brazil, my home country, because I'm from Brazil. And that says a lot. When the people of this country, somebody who wasn't even born here, is asking him to save the country from becoming like her home country because she knows that under Kamala, we'll start to have those issues. That's a big deal. And every person who came through that window was excited to see him. He was polite. They were polite. And the way he deals with people is so much nicer than Kamala.
That man is a people person.
He really is.
He loves people, and you can tell it when he's next to him. Dude, it's so funny.
It was hilarious, though, watching him on the fryer. And he's sitting there. He's like, oh, this fryer is actually kind of neat. so you got buttons here, so if you need to do it with your left hand, the guy's like, yeah, and he's like, whoa. And it was just kind of like, it was making me laugh because I was looking at it, I was like, oh, I've never worked in a McDonald's fryer. That's actually kind of cool too. Like
My favorite
everybody's
part.
just looking at it.
My favorite part is when he's doing the fries. He's actually putting the fries in the cartons, and he's like, "Never touched by the human hand." Hands it to the manager. It's like, "Oh, you got one more order." He puts it in there. Never touched by the human hand. It was so funny.
I love
Every
how like
time.
he scooped like his first thing of fries and he was handing it to the guy and he was like, "Come on, here, take the fries. You deserve a." I just started laughing. I was like, "Bro, that's too good."
It's
But
great.
it's funny because when you look at when Trump does the public appearance and public stunt versus when Kamala attempts to, the reactions of people are much, much different, right? Trump talks to people, he comes up to them, he shakes their hand, he looks them in the eyes. Kamala is constantly running away from the public. When she's out and people even running to her plane, right, and reporters are there, she is booking it. She is running, avoiding, hiding her face, getting in that plane as fast as possible.
Body language
And
says volumes, and her body language
oh yeah.
is I don't want to be here. I don't want to be with you. I don't care that you're here. I want to go home and guzzle up a bottle of gardenia while I watch something. I don't know. Like, it's just so
Yeah.
bad.
So one last thing I want to end on, and one thing that really aggravated me is both of our candidates claim Christian ideals. But Kamala had a rally this week. Could have been late last week. And a group of boys started screaming, Christ is king, praise Jesus, that kind of stuff. And she goes, "You're at the wrong rally." And then they kick them out.
What
Okay,
does it
you're a
say to you?
Christian. You're at the wrong rally if somebody says that. But then they do the same thing at a JD Vance when JD Vance is talking. And he was like, "Yes, Jesus is Lord." If you're a Christian listening, that's all you need to know about the two voting people. If you're sitting there and you're one of those like my parents who are like, "Oh, it doesn't really matter what they think. What we need to do is preach the gospel." Well, look at the reception of Jesus from both of them. One is very welcoming. One admits and states that Jesus is king. The other one says, "Oh, you're at the wrong rally," and then kicks them out. That's
What does
going to
it
tell
say
you
to
all
you?
you need to know about the next 4 years. What's that say to me?
Yeah, like, what does it say to you
Well,
as just a voter, man? I'm like, oh, someone doesn't perfectly agree with you in everything that you spiel out of your mouth. This one, like, goodbye. That's one of the greatest things about the Trump coalition is it's literally everybody except for weak-minded liberals. It's literally everybody from every type of walk of life coming by and saying those people are crazy. I just want to be normal,
oh
and
yeah.
he's this huge coalition of people that atheist, Christian, Muslim, like the entire thing. But versus Kamala, which is this very specific, very small sect of people that
It's very
yeah.
anti-God, anti-Jesus, and it's because the name of Jesus carries weight and it carries conviction with it. And those people are typically involved in incredible sin that is pushed by the Democratic Party, and that's why there's such a pushback to it. So it's
Definitely,
really sad, but
definitely a dumb
oh,
move on her part.
absolutely.
I mean,
100%, especially because that's coming from the party of inclusivity. We're inclusive towards everybody unless we're not, because we're actually not inclusive towards anybody. Look, if you're questioning who you should vote for, it's kind of crazy that if you have an American flag, people expect you to vote Republican in this election.
yep.
If you have possession of your own country's flag, people already know what party you're voting for. That is wild. That is crazy. And you should really be questioning if you're voting for the other side if you're an extremist if you just have your country's flag.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only other place that you see something like that is Germany. But Germany does it because they are terrified that they're going to be called nationalists again because of Hitler and all that.
The Hitler.
Yeah, which again, we can get into all the craziness that caused Hitler's fascism and caused the German people to react the way they did due to the poor handling of the post World War One era. But
And
we're literally
mind control, like literal mind control by social, not socialism. Well, socialism, but Like they literally got reprogrammed over the course of like 10 years with just the school system, the political system, everything they were told, propaganda, and Hitler was a
It's easy.
masterful manipulator, and he was an
All
evil,
it
horrible
takes,
person that did evil things with that.
yeah, because and all it takes is a generation. All he had to do, all they had to do was sit there and change the education for a single generation, and they had a worldwide war. That's all it takes. And our generation is there.
It's
And you can
crazy.
definitely see that in the polarizing sides that we see.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but polls are up for Trump.
Oh,
Trump is winning the Hispanic vote by over 11% last time I saw. It could be higher now.
he's doing so much better in every single demographic, except for maybe white
Oh,
women.
yeah.
Maybe. Um, like one of the things is in 2020 he had 12 or 13. I think it was 12% of the black vote. He now is polling at 20%. That's nuts. That's crazy, and Republicans have come out in swaths with early voting. So we'll see what happens. Right now, the Polymarket betting site, for the first time since this race started, and especially
Mhm.
since the first time since Harris stepped in, they've been at 55 or 50 the entire time. No candidate going above 55% probability of winning the race. Donald Trump is now at 68%. He has a 68% chance of winning the race right now on Polymarket,
Which is
which is a,
way
a
higher.
betting which is a betting site. So,
Mhm. Which, if you remember, Dale, back way back when Trump lost the election and Biden got elected, right? Do you remember what everybody was saying back then? Because I remember a lot of people saying this is bad now, but what this is going to do is this is going to guarantee a landslide for Trump in the future. And I think we are possibly about to see that happen. It's like what happened with is it Reagan? I think it
Reagan,
was Reagan,
he
right?
got
Yeah.
49 states.
49 states. Now, do I think Trump is going to get 49 states?
Probably not.
I don't think he's going to get 49. Do I think he's going to win this election? I actually do. I think if we can possibly keep cheating to a minimum, because I don't trust Democrats to
Well,
win
you
this
don't
fairly.
trust the election, which has already come out to say every single northern liberal state has said we're not going to know what our votes are until possibly Wednesday or Thursday or
Yeah.
Friday. And it's like, you're kidding me. You do realize that we've had same day election, like we've called the election the same day for our entire history except for 2000. In 2000, Al Gore versus Bush had to go up to the Supreme Court, and then 2020. That's it.
Yeah.
Everyone knew when the election was. Everyone knew when. Everyone's all like, that's how it's always been. And you're saying, oh, because we, have blah blah blah. All these garbage, terrible answers. Oh, because we've updated our systems. Well, the updated systems can't get the election right in one day, then they're garbage, and you shouldn't be using them in the first place. And if you are, you're trying to skew something. So,
And that's what I'm afraid of. But I think Trump has. I think this election's going to be so much heavier for him than the last election that it's
mm-hmm.
going to take a lot more effort on their part to cheat. And I think they're anticipating that.
Oh no,
But
they've
I'm going to
hired.
be really interested to see. They've
So
hired.
they have hired Donald Trump's the Republican National Convention's uh, get out the vote. The thing has come out with 207 currently. They have trained 207,000 poll watchers to be
Mm-hmm.
at the polls in key states that had fishy election results and collecting prospects in 2020. 207,000. So hopefully that's enough. We'll see. I am hopeful. I'm praying that Trump wins, and I'm praying that he gets elected, and that we have a time in this country where we can actually breathe.
Yeah. Yeah, we're getting to a point where I mean, it's almost election, and I'm extremely excited to see where we can go on this. You know, win or lose, God's in control, and I'm obviously
Absolutely.
praying for the candidate that I'm voting for.
I mean, what
But
else
most
can you do?
importantly, I pray that God's will be done. Yeah, obviously. I mean, there's nothing else that we can do. We voted. It's out of our hands, right?
Yep.
Now it's up to the rest of the American people to decide. And so we are excited to see what's coming up in the next couple weeks. We appreciate you guys for joining us back for this shorter episode, and we'll see where the future takes us. You all have a wonderful night. Bye.
And don't forget to like and subscribe. This has been the Outcast, and we will see you hopefully next week. My name is Dale. Hasta luego. Have a great night.